Captain Kim Tae-ho stood at attention in General Choi's office. His uniform was perfect, but his eyes told a different story. They had seen too much. 4 tours of duty, 3 failed psych evaluations. His military career was almost over. "At ease, Captain," said General Choi, looking up from his tablet. "I have a new assignment for you." Tae-ho relaxed his stance. "Sir, with respect, I thought I was being discharged." "That was the plan. But something has come up. Something that might be a good fit for someone with your—" The general paused. "Your unique background." The general led Tae-ho down to the lower levels of the base. These areas required special clearance. Tae-ho had never been here before. "The United Earth Defense Force has been working on a new program," explained General Choi as they walked. "We call it the Neural Bond Initiative." They stopped at a heavy door with armed guards. After a retinal scan, the door opened to reveal a large lab. Scientists in white coats moved between stations. In the center of the room was a large glass enclosure. Inside the enclosure was a wolf. But not just any wolf. This animal was larger than normal, with thick gray and white fur. Its eyes were alert and knowing, far too intelligent for a regular animal. "This is Beck," said a woman in a lab coat who approached them. "I'm Dr. Park Ji-woo, head of the Neural Bond Initiative." "What exactly is this program, Doctor?" asked Tae-ho, unable to look away from the wolf's golden eyes. "We've developed technology that allows humans and enhanced animals to share consciousness," Dr. Park explained. "A neural link. Several soldiers have bonded with different animals, mostly dogs and horses, but no one has successfully bonded with a wolf yet. They're too wild," added the general. "Too independent." Tae-ho finally turned away from the wolf. "And you want me to try?" "Your psych profile suggests you might be compatible," said Dr. Park. "Your mind has unusual patterns we've seen in our most successful bonds." "What she means," the general said bluntly, "is that the same thing that's getting you discharged might actually be useful here." Tae-ho understood. His PTSD, the flashbacks, the way his mind worked differently after all he'd seen. "What happens if it works?" he asked. "You'll be assigned to a special unit," said the general. "If it doesn't work, you get your honorable discharge as planned." Tae-ho looked back at the wolf. Blake was now standing at the glass, staring directly at him. "When do we start?" he asked. The procedure room was cold. Tae-ho lay on a medical table with sensors attached to his head. Through a window, he could see Buck in a similar setup. "The neural bond requires both parties to be open," explained Dr. Park as she adjusted equipment. "Most wolves resist. They fight the connection." Tae-ho nodded. He understood fighting against intrusion all too well. "We'll begin with a light link," Dr. Park continued. "Just surface thoughts. Don't try to push too hard." The machinery hummed to life. Tae-ho felt a strange tingling in his mind. "Connection initializing," said a technician. Tae-ho closed his eyes. Instead of fighting the strange presence, he welcomed it. In his mind, he imagined opening a door. Suddenly, his senses exploded. Smells he never knew existed filled his awareness. He could hear the heartbeats of everyone in the room. When he opened his eyes, colors seemed sharper, more vivid. In the other room, Bake stood perfectly still, his eyes locked on Tae-ho. "This is unprecedented," whispered Dr. Park, looking at the readings. "The link formed instantly, and it's much deeper than anything we've seen before." Tae-ho barely heard her. He was focused on the new presence in his mind. Not invasive, not threatening. It felt right, like finding a missing piece of himself. Through the glass, Bake tilted his head. Tae-ho found himself mirroring the movement. "Captain," General Choi's voice seemed far away. "Are you all right?" "Yes, sir," replied Tae-ho, his voice steady. "Bak and I, we understand each other." The scientists exchanged shocked glances. "That's not possible," one of them muttered. The wolf's name wasn't shared with him. But Tahoe knew it was true. Just as he knew Bake had been alone for too long. Just as Buck knew Tahoe had been broken by war. Two damaged souls had found each other. And something new had begun. 3 months passed quickly. Each day, Tahoe and Beck trained together. Their bond grew stronger. They could now share thoughts without effort. Tahoe could see through Beck's eyes. Beck could understand human words through Tahoe's mind. Dr. Park watched them with growing excitement. "They are breaking all our records," she told General Choi during a progress meeting. "The neural pathways are twice as dense as our best previous pairs." On a cool morning, Tahoe and Bake ran the training course. They moved as one being. When Bak jumped a barrier, Tahoe felt the power in those legs. When Tahoe aimed at targets, Bake knew where to look. Suddenly, alarms blared across the base. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill." The voice on the speakers was tense. Tahoe and Bake froze. Through their bond, they shared the same thought. Danger. Soldiers ran past them toward the command center. Tahoe joined the flow, Buck at his side. No one questioned the wolf's presence. The command center was chaos. On the main screen, strange ships filled the sky over major cities. "What's happening?" Tahoe asked the communications officer. "We're under attack," she replied, her face pale. "They came out of nowhere. Hundreds of ships." General Choi stood at the center of the room, barking orders. When he saw Tahoe and Bak, he waved them over. "Captain, I need all hands now, even those still in training." The screen changed to show close-up images of the invaders. They looked like giant insects walking on two legs. Their bodies were covered in hard shells. Their eyes were large and black. "The Krell," explained General Choi. "We've had reports of them attacking other systems. Now they're here." Through the bond, Bake growled. Tahoe felt the wolf's hatred of the insect-like creatures. "What can we do, sir?" asked Tahoe. Before the general could answer, the building shook. The lights flickered. "They found us," someone shouted. The command center erupted in activity. Officers rushed to battle stations. Soldiers grabbed weapons. "Our defenses are failing," reported a lieutenant. "They have some kind of biological technology that's eating through our shields." Another explosion rocked the building. Closer this time. "All non-combat personnel to the evacuation area," ordered General Choi. "Combat teams, form a defensive line." Tahoe looked at Bike. Through their bond, they didn't need words. They would fight. They raced to the armory. Tahoe grabbed a pulse rifle and combat armor. He didn't bother with protection for Buck. The wolf was faster without it. They headed toward the sound of battle. The scene outside was chaos. The sky was dark with strange ships. Soldiers fired upward, but their weapons seemed to do little damage. Near the main gate, a squad was pinned down by Krell warriors. The insect-like aliens moved with unnatural speed, their claws slicing through standard armor. "We need to help them," said Tahoe aloud. Bak's answer came through their bond. "Asterisk, let's hunt asterisk." They moved as one. Tahoe circled right while Buck went left. The Krell didn't notice them at first, focused on the trapped squad. Tahoe fired 3 precise shots, dropping a Krell warrior. At the same moment, Bake leaped from the shadows, his powerful jaws crushing the leg joint of another alien. The remaining Krell turned toward this new threat. That was when Tahoe and Bake showed what their bond could do. Tahoe saw through both his eyes and Bak's. He knew exactly where the wolf would strike next. Their movements flowed together perfectly. When a Krell rushed at Tahoe, Bake was already there, attacking from behind. When 2 aliens cornered Bake, Tahoe's shots found the weak spots in their armor. In minutes, the area was clear. The trapped squad stared in amazement. "How did you do that?" asked one soldier. Tahoe didn't answer. Through their bond, he and Bake already knew their next move. Other soldiers needed help nearby. They fought for hours. Squads that fought alongside them reported the same thing. The man and wolf moved like they shared one mind. From his emergency command post, General Choi watched video feeds of their battles. "Get me Captain Kim and his wolf," he ordered. "I think we found our edge in this war." General Choi stood before a large map table. Red dots covered much of Earth's surface, showing Krell-controlled territory. A small group of officers surrounded him, including Taiho. Buck sat at Taiho's side, watching the map with intelligent eyes. "Our regular forces are losing ground fast," said General Choi. "We need to understand what the Krell want." So far, all reconnaissance teams have failed to return. The general turned to Taiho and Buck. "That's where you two come in. You've proven yourselves in battle. Now I need your special abilities for something more important." A woman stepped forward and placed a small device on the table. "This is a data collector," she explained. "It can record Krell communications and analyze their technology. We need it placed inside their main base in this region." Taiho studied the map. The mission would take them deep into enemy territory. "Why us?" he asked. "Because you and Bake work differently than our other teams," said General Choi. "Your neural link gives you advantages no one else has. You can communicate silently. You have Bak's senses and your tactical mind working as one." That night, Taiho couldn't sleep. The weight of the mission pressed on him. Through their bond, Bake sent feelings of confidence. The wolf had no doubts. "We hunt together." Came Back's thought. "Will survive." The next morning, a stealth transport dropped them 50 miles from the Krell base. They would travel the rest of the way on foot. They moved through forests that had changed since the invasion. Strange plants grew among Earth's trees. The air smelled different, filled with alien spores. Through Bak's nose, Taiho could detect dangers he would have missed. They avoided Krell patrols by sensing them from far away. After 2 days of careful travel, they reached a ridge overlooking the Krell base. What they saw made Taiho's blood run cold. The base wasn't just a military outpost. It was a massive factory. Giant towers reached into the sky, pumping out thick clouds of green gas. The ground around the base had changed color, covered in alien growth. "They're not just invading," whispered Taiho. "They're changing our planet." Through their bond, Bake shared his understanding. The wolf had seen animals do this before, take over territories and make them their own, but never on such a large scale. Taiho took out his binoculars. He needed to get closer to place the data collector. They waited until dark, then moved down the ridge. The outer edge of the base had fewer guards. Still, getting inside wouldn't be easy. Taiho spotted motion sensors and alarm systems. "We need a distraction," he said to Buck. They found a weak point, a drainage pipe leading into the base. Buck was too large to fit, but Taiho could manage. "I will create noise away from there," came Back's thought. "Then join you inside another way." Taiho nodded. He didn't like separating, but they had no choice. 20 minutes later, explosions rang out on the far side of the base. Buck had found a fuel depot and sparked a fire. Krell warriors rushed toward the flames. Taiho slipped into the drainage pipe. Inside the base, he moved carefully from shadow to shadow. Through their bond, he could sense Buck circling around, seeking another entrance. In the central building, Taiho found what they needed. It wasn't just a command center. It was an atmospheric processor. Huge machines pumped Earth air in and alien air out. He placed the data collector behind a panel and activated it. Immediately, it began sending information back to headquarters. Taiho was about to leave when he felt Back's warning. Krell warriors had discovered the wolf trying to enter the base. Without hesitation, Taiho ran toward the danger. Their bond pulled them together. Through Back's eyes, he could see a dozen Krell surrounding the wolf. As Taiho burst outside, Bake leaped into action. Together, they fought with perfect coordination. Taiho's shots hit weak spots that only Bake could sense. Buck attacked with timing that only Tahoe could plan. More Krell came, but they couldn't match the deadly dance of man and wolf. Fighting back to back, they carved a path to freedom. As they escaped into the forest, Tahoe sent a message to headquarters. Mission complete. But we found something important. The Krell aren't just invading Earth, they're terraforming it. The command room fell silent as the data from Tahoe and Buck's mission appeared on the main screen. Images showed the massive machines changing Earth's air. This confirms our worst fears, said General Choi. The Krell are making our planet like their home world. If these machines keep working, humans won't be able to breathe the air in 3 months. Dr. Park studied the readings with concern. The terraforming is happening faster than we thought. We need to destroy these processors. A tall officer stepped forward. Captain Song Min-ho had a hard face with a long scar down his cheek. My team can handle this mission, General. Your last team didn't come back, Captain Song, said General Choi flatly. We need a new approach. All eyes turned to Tahoe and Buck, who stood quietly at the side of the room. Buck's golden eyes moved from person to person, understanding everything. Captain Song frowned. You're not sending a man and his pet on a mission my soldiers died trying to complete. Through their bond, Tahoe felt Buck's anger at being called a pet. He placed a calming hand on the wolf's head. Captain Kim and Bake have succeeded where others failed, said General Choi. And there's more. Dr. Park has made some interesting discoveries about their neural link. Dr. Park stepped forward with her tablet. The bond between Tahoe and Buck has continued to evolve. Their neural link is now active even when they're physically apart. Tahoe can access Buck's enhanced senses from a distance of up to 1 mile. She showed brain scans on the large screen. Even more surprising, Bake now understands human language and complex strategy. This goes beyond what we thought possible. Captain Song wasn't convinced. With respect, sir, Captain Kim has failed 3 psych evaluations. His mental stability is questionable. That was before, said Dr. Park quickly. The neural link has changed that. Tahoe's traumatic memories no longer control him when shared with Bake. The wolf's simpler emotional responses help process the trauma. General Choi raised his hand to end the debate. I've made my decision. We need to destroy the main atmospheric processor. While our remaining forces launch a diversionary attack, Captain Kim and Bake will infiltrate the facility and destroy it from within. He pointed to a spot on the map. Our scientists have identified the main processor here. It controls the others. Destroy this, and the whole network fails. The room filled with officers planning the attack. Tahoe and Bake moved to a quiet corner. Through their bond, they shared thoughts without words. Asterisk, the mission will be dangerous. Asterisk, thought Tahoe. Asterisk, all hunts have risk. Asterisk, came Buck's response. Asterisk, but we are strong together. Asterisk. Tahoe was still amazed at how Buck's thoughts had become more complex. The wolf now understood concepts like strategy and sacrifice. Captain Song approached them, his face stern. I lost my entire unit trying to get close to that base. 12 good soldiers. I'm sorry for your loss, said Tahoe. Save it, snapped Captain Song. I don't know what General Choi sees in you and this animal, but if you get this mission, you'd better not waste the lives of the soldiers providing your diversion. As Captain Song walked away, Bake growled softly. Asterisk, he is afraid. Asterisk, came the wolf's thought. Asterisk, he has lost his pack. Asterisk. Tahoe nodded. He's right to be concerned. This won't be like our first mission. The Krell will be expecting us now. Dr. Park joined them with new equipment. We've developed these based on your neural link. She handed Tahoe a small device. This enhancer will strengthen your connection, allowing you to maintain the bond over greater distances. Will it help us destroy the processor? Asked Tahoe. That's the other part, said Dr. Park. The processor has a biological core. It's alive, in a way. Your connection with Bake might help you find its weakness. Later that night, as soldiers prepared for battle, Tai-Ho and Bake stood on a hill overlooking the base. The plan was set. In 12 hours, Earth's forces would launch their largest attack yet. During the chaos, Tai-Ho and Bake would slip into the heart of the enemy. Asterisk, are you ready? Asterisk, thought Tai-Ho. Bake's response came clearly. Asterisk, we are hunters. And now we hunt for our world. Asterisk. The mission began at dawn. Earth forces attacked Krell positions across the region, drawing attention away from the main processor. Tai-Ho and Bake traveled with a small team of soldiers led by Lieutenant Han. Their transport flew low over the forest, avoiding Krell sensors. The plan was simple. Drop behind enemy lines, approach on foot, and enter the facility during the confusion of battle. 5 minutes to drop zone, called the pilot. The soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Tai-Ho adjusted the neural enhancer Dr. Park had given him. Beside him, Bake sat calmly, golden eyes alert. Suddenly, the transport rocked violently. Warning lights flashed red. We've been hit, shouted the pilot. Krell fighters coming in hot. The transport spun out of control. Through the windows, Tai-Ho saw the ground rushing up to meet them. Brace for impact, yelled Lieutenant Han. The crash came hard and fast. Metal tore, glass shattered. The world became noise and pain. Tai-Ho woke to smoke and silence. His body felt broken. Through blurry eyes, he saw bodies of soldiers scattered around the wreckage. None were moving. Asterisk, Tai-Ho. Get up, asterisk. Bake's thought cut through the pain. The wolf stood over him, nudging him with his muzzle. I can't, gasped Tai-Ho. A piece of metal had pierced his leg, and burns covered his left side. Asterisk, you must. Krell calming asterisk. Through their bond, Tai-Ho felt what Bake sensed, enemies approaching. Using the wolf's strength, he pushed himself up. The pain almost made him black out. Bake moved close, allowing Tai-Ho to lean on him. Together, they limped away from the crash site. Behind them, they heard Krell weapons fire. The enemy had found the wreckage. For hours, they moved slowly through the forest. Tai-Ho's wounds leaked blood, leaving a trail. Whenever Krell patrols got close, Bake would guide them to hiding places. By nightfall, Tai-Ho couldn't go further. They found a small cave hidden by fallen trees. The mission is over, Tai-Ho said weakly. We failed. Bake's response was firm. Asterisk, not over. Rest now. Heal. Asterisk. Through their link, Tai-Ho felt Bake's determination. The wolf had no concept of giving up. For 3 days, Tai-Ho drifted between consciousness and darkness. His wounds were bad. Without medical help, he might die. Each time he woke, Bake was there. The wolf brought water in his mouth from a nearby stream. He caught small animals for food, tearing the meat into pieces Tai-Ho could eat. On the 4th day, Tai-Ho's fever broke. He was still weak, but the wounds had stopped bleeding. Through their bond, he sensed something had changed. The neural link had deepened during his healing time. When he closed his eyes, he could see Bake's memories, running with a pack as a young wolf, the scientists who had enhanced him, the loneliness of the lab. When Bake slept, the wolf experienced Tai-Ho's past. Childhood in a small town, military training, the battles that had haunted him. We're becoming more than just connected, Tai-Ho said aloud. Bake's thought came clearly. Asterisk, we are becoming on asterisk. On the 6th day, a Krell patrol came dangerously close to their hiding place. Tai-Ho was still too weak to move quickly. Through their bond, he shared a plan with Bake. The wolf slipped out of the cave and created false trails, leading the Krell away. As he ran, Tai-Ho could see through Bake's eyes, feeling the rush of the forest, smelling the alien scent of the Krell. When the patrol was safely distant, Bake returned. Watching the wolf move, Tai-Ho had an idea. We've been thinking like soldiers, he said, but we should be thinking like hunters. Bake tilted his head, listening. The Krell expect an attack, continued Taiho. But what if we hunt them instead? Like a wolf pack taking down larger prey. Through their bond, Bake showed understanding. He shared images of wolves hunting moose, not by direct attack, but by wearing the larger animal down, attacking and retreating, working together with perfect timing. As Taiho's strength slowly returned, they planned their new approach. They would not try to fight through Krell defenses. Instead, they would find the weak points, the blind spots. Like wolves, they would use patience and strategy. The mission isn't over, said Taiho, standing up for the first time in days. It's just beginning. A Krell supply convoy moved slowly through the forest. 6 guards walked alongside 2 large vehicles carrying food and weapons. They felt safe in their own territory. None of them noticed the golden eyes watching from the shadows. Taiho lay perfectly still on a ridge above the path. His body had healed enough for him to move, though pain still came with every step. Through Bak's eyes, he could see all sides of the convoy. Asterisk now, asterisk, thought Taiho. Bake burst from the bushes, snarling and snapping. The Krell guards turned toward the noise, raising their weapons. But the wolf was already gone, disappearing back into the trees. While they were distracted, Taiho fired 3 perfect shots. 3 Krell fell. The others spun around, confused and afraid. Bake attacked again from a different direction. He bit one guard's leg, then vanished before the others could shoot. Taiho took down another with his rifle. The last 2 Krell stood back to back, trying to watch all directions at once. They never saw the small explosive Taiho had planted on one of the vehicles. The blast knocked them down. Before they could stand, Bake was on one and Taiho's final shot took the other. 20 minutes later, Taiho and Bake were gone, taking food and weapons with them. The only sign they had been there was a mark cut into a tree, a human handprint next to a wolf's paw. Back at Earth headquarters, General Choi looked at reports of Krell outposts attacked by unseen enemies. It has to be them, said Dr. Park. The pattern matches Taiho's training. And look at this. She showed images of the marks left at each site, the handprint and paw print. They're alive, said General Choi. And they're still fighting. Captain Song studied the reports. These aren't random attacks. They're systematic. Each one targets supplies, communications, or transport. Dr. Park nodded. They're weakening the Krell infrastructure. It's exactly what a wolf pack would do to larger prey. Make it tired, cut it off from resources. For 3 weeks, Taiho and Bake continued their campaign. They never stayed in one place for long. Each day they struck, then melted back into the forest. Each attack was planned using Bak's senses and Taiho's strategy. The Krell began to fear the forest. Soldiers refused to travel in small groups. They told stories of a demon that could appear and disappear without sound, leaving only death behind. In their current camp, a hollow beneath a fallen tree, Taiho cleaned his weapons. His body was stronger now. The wounds had healed into scars, but they still pulled at his skin. Through their bond, he felt Bake returning from a scouting trip. The wolf entered their hiding place and dropped a small metal object at Taiho's feet. "What's this?" asked Taiho, picking it up. It was a Krell communication device. Somehow, Bake had known to bring it. Taiho activated it. Strange clicking sounds came from the speaker. After months of fighting the Krell, he had learned enough of their language to understand parts of the message. "They're talking about a human team," he told Bake. "Prisoners taken to the main processor." More clicking sounds followed. Taiho's face darkened. "They've captured Captain Song and his team. They tried to complete our mission after we were presumed dead." Bake's thoughts came clearly. Asterisk, what will we do, asterisk? Taiho considered their options. Their guerrilla campaign was working. The Krell were weakening in this sector, but Captain Song and his soldiers would be killed if no one helped them. "We can't leave them," said Taiho finally. "But rescuing them means going to the heart of Krell territory. The very place we've been avoiding. Bake moved closer, pressing against Taiho's side. Asterisk, we are stronger now. Asterisk, came the wolf's thought. Asterisk, not just soldier and wolf. Something new. Asterisk. Taiho nodded. Their bond had continued to evolve. Sometimes he found himself thinking like a wolf, sensing danger before it appeared. And Bake now understood complex plans without Taiho having to explain them. We'll need to stop our attacks, said Taiho. Make the Krell think we've moved to another area. Then, when they relax their guard, we strike at the processor. Bake's agreement flowed through their bond. The wolf understood sacrifice and duty now, concepts that once belonged only to the human side of their connection. As night fell, they began planning their most dangerous mission yet. This time, they weren't just fighting for Earth. They were fighting for their fellow soldiers. For 5 days, Taiho and Bake watched the Krell processor from different hiding spots. They studied guard patterns and shift changes. They found blind spots in the security system. There, said Taiho, pointing to a small door on the east side. That's our way in. The guards change at midnight, leaving a 2-minute gap. Through their bond, Bake agreed. The wolf had grown thin during their weeks in the wild, but his muscles were hard and strong. Taiho, too, had changed. His face was now weathered, with a full beard. His movements had become more animal-like, quiet and smooth. That night, they prepared for the rescue mission. Taiho checked his weapons and the few explosives they had collected. Buck stretched his powerful legs, ready to run and fight. We go in, find Song and his team, and get out, said Taiho. No unnecessary risks. As midnight approached, they moved closer to the facility. The massive towers loomed above them, pumping poison into Earth's atmosphere. Taiho felt anger burning in his chest, anger that was partly his, partly Beck's. When the guards changed shifts, Taiho and Bake slipped through the small door. Inside, they moved like shadows through dim corridors. Thanks to the communication device Beck had found, they knew the prison area was 3 levels down. They took a maintenance shaft to avoid the main hallways. At the bottom, 2 Krell guards stood outside a heavy door. Through their bond, Taiho and Bake planned their attack without words. Bake growled loudly, drawing the guards' attention. When they turned toward the sound, Taiho struck from behind. In seconds, both guards were down. Taiho took a security card from one guard and opened the door. Inside were cells made of clear, strong material. In the 3rd cell, he saw Captain Song and 4 other humans. They looked thin and beaten, but alive. Captain Kim. Song's voice was weak with disbelief. Everyone thinks you're dead. Not yet, said Taiho as he worked to open the cell. We're getting you out of here. Captain Song stood shakily. There were 12 of us. The others. No time, said Taiho. Can you all walk? The prisoners nodded. Taiho gave them the guards' weapons. Stay close to me and Bike. We have a way out. They had almost reached the maintenance shaft when alarms blared through the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. They've discovered the empty cells, said Taiho. Move faster. As they rushed toward their exit, a large group of Krell soldiers appeared ahead, blocking their path. More soldiers came from behind. They were trapped. Taiho looked at Buck. Through their bond, he felt the wolf's determination. They would not die here. They would not fail. Something strange happened then. As Taiho raised his weapon, he felt a sudden shift in his mind. The neural link with Bake expanded in a way he had never felt before. Suddenly, he could see through Bake's eyes while still seeing through his own. He could feel the wolf's muscles as if they were his own. It was as if he existed in 2 bodies at once. Through their bond, he knew Bake felt the same thing. The wolf now understood human speech perfectly. He could think in words, not just feelings and images. Stand back, Taiho told the rescued prisoners, and be ready to run when we clear a path. What happened next amazed everyone. Tai-Ho and Bake attacked the Krell soldiers with perfect coordination. But it was more than that. They moved like a single being with two bodies. When a Krell aimed at Bak, Tai-Ho was already shooting it. When enemies surrounded Tai-Ho, Bak attacked from behind without being told. They anticipated each other's moves before they happened. Captain Song and the others could only watch in awe. "What are they?" whispered one soldier. "Our salvation," replied Song. In minutes, the hallway was clear of living enemies. Tai-Ho and Bake led the group to the exit door. Outside, they ran for the forest cover. Only when they were safely hidden did Tai-Ho and Bake separate their consciousnesses fully. The experience left them both shaking. "What happened back there?" asked Captain Song. Tai-Ho looked at Bake, seeing understanding in the wolf's golden eyes. "We've changed," he said simply. "We've become something new." That night, as the rescued soldiers rested, Tai-Ho sat with Bake under the stars. Through their bond, they explored their new connection. They could now share not just thoughts and senses, but consciousness itself. "We are stronger together than apart," said Tai-Ho. "And I think we've only just begun to discover what we can do." Captain Song looked at the small group around him. 5 rescued soldiers, plus Tai-Ho and Bak. All were tired but ready to fight. "We need to get back to headquarters," said Song. "Report what we've learned about the Krell." Tai-Ho shook his head. "There's no time. Look." He pointed to the night sky. The stars were barely visible through a green haze. The Krell's terraforming was working faster now. "How long?" asked Song. "Days, not months," replied Tai-Ho. "We intercepted Krell messages. The main processor is almost ready for full activation. Once that happens, Earth's atmosphere will change too quickly for humans to survive." One of the soldiers, Lieutenant Kang, spoke up. "So what do we do? There are only 7 of us." Tai-Ho looked at Bak. Through their shared consciousness, they had been forming a plan. It was dangerous, maybe impossible, but they had no choice. "We go back," said Tai-Ho. "Not to escape this time. To destroy the processor." Captain Song frowned. "That's suicide. The place will be on high alert after our escape." "We have something they don't expect," said Tai-Ho, putting his hand on Bak's head. "Our bond has changed. We can do things now that weren't possible before." He explained what had happened during the rescue, how he and Bak had shared consciousness across 2 bodies. The soldiers looked skeptical, but Captain Song had seen it with his own eyes. "It's true," Song told his men. "They fought like nothing I've ever seen." They spent the day preparing. Tai-Ho drew maps of the facility based on what they had seen. The main processor's core was deep inside the building, protected by many guards. "The core is biological," explained Tai-Ho. "It's like a giant heart that pumps the new atmosphere. If we destroy it, the whole network will fail." As night fell, they moved toward the facility again. This time, they didn't try to hide. They needed to create a distraction big enough for Tai-Ho and Bak to reach the core. At the edge of the clearing, Captain Song turned to his men. "Hit the fuel storage area first, then target communications. Make them think we're a much larger force." He looked at Tai-Ho and Bak. "How long will you need?" 15 minutes to reach the core," said Tai-Ho. 5 minutes to set the charges. Then we all run." The attack began with an explosion at the fuel depot. As Krell soldiers ran to fight the fire, Song's team struck from different directions, creating chaos. In the confusion, Tai-Ho and Bak slipped inside the facility. They moved quickly through the halls, their shared consciousness making them twice as aware of dangers. When they encountered enemies, they fought as one being with 2 bodies. They reached the central chamber faster than expected. Inside was a massive pulsing organ connected to tubes that ran throughout the building, the biological core. Tai-Ho began placing explosives around the core. Through Bak's enhanced senses, he could find the weakest points. Just as he set the last charge, Dozens of Krell soldiers poured into the chamber. There were too many to fight. Captain Song's voice came through on the small radio Taiho carried. "We can't hold them off much longer. Are you done?" "Almost," replied Taiho. "But we're trapped. There are too many guards at the core." "We'll come to you," said Song. "No," said Taiho firmly. "Get your men out. The charges are set." Through their bond, Taiho and Bake reached a decision. Someone would need to stay behind to make sure the core was destroyed. Someone would need to sacrifice themselves. "Captain Song, listen carefully," said Taiho into the radio. "Take your team and retreat. We'll trigger the explosives manually." "That's a death sentence," argued Song. "Maybe for normal soldiers," said Taiho. "But Bake and I are something else now." He shut off the radio before Song could argue further. The Krell were closing in from all sides. Taiho looked at Bake, his friend and other half. "Ready?" he asked, though he already knew the answer through their bond. Bake's response was clear, asterisk together, until the end asterisk. As the Krell rushed into the chamber, Taiho and Bake stood side by side. They would give Captain Song and his team time to escape. They would save Earth, even if they couldn't save themselves. Taiho placed his hand on the detonator. "For Earth," he said. And as the Krell swarmed toward them, man and wolf became one consciousness for what might be the final time. A massive explosion lit up the night sky. The Krell atmospheric processor erupted in flames and green gas. The blast was so powerful it shook the ground for miles. Captain Song and his team watched from a safe distance, their faces grim. No one could have survived that explosion. "They saved us all," said Lieutenant Kang softly. Song nodded. "The best soldier I ever knew, and the most remarkable wolf." The destruction of the main processor had an immediate effect. All across the region, smaller processors began to fail. The chain reaction spread worldwide. Within days, the Krell terraforming network had collapsed completely. Earth forces, seeing the aliens in disarray, launched a massive counterattack. Without their atmospheric technology, the Krell were vulnerable. They had planned to change Earth to suit their needs. Now they had to fight on human terms. 2 weeks after the explosion, a cleanup team searched the ruins of the processor. They wore protective suits against the lingering Krell chemicals. Their job was to make sure nothing dangerous remained. "Buildings clear on the east side," reported one soldier over the radio. "West side clear too," said another. The team leader, Sergeant Lee, moved carefully through what had once been the central chamber. The biological core was completely destroyed. Nothing could have survived the blast. Then he saw movement under a fallen piece of metal. Sergeant Lee raised his weapon. "Hello? Anyone there?" The metal shifted. A hand emerged. Then a human figure. It was covered in burns and wounds, but definitely alive. "Captain Kim," gasped Sergeant Lee, recognizing the face despite its injuries. Taiho looked up weakly. "Help, Buck." Sergeant Lee called for medics, then moved the metal aside. Beneath it lay Taiho and Buck, both terribly wounded but somehow still breathing. "Impossible," whispered Sergeant Lee. "No one could survive that blast." The medical team arrived quickly. They were shocked by what they found. Despite injuries that should have been fatal, both Taiho and Buck were healing. Their wounds closed as the medics watched. "It's their neural link," said one doctor after examining them. "They're sharing life force between them. When one gets weaker, the other strengthens them." News of their survival spread quickly. By the time they returned to headquarters, they were already being called heroes. General Choi and Dr. Park met them at the medical center. Taiho could walk now, though his body was still covered in healing scars. Buck stayed close by his side, moving more slowly than before but still powerful. "The Krell are retreating worldwide," said General Choi. "What you did changed the course of the war." Dr. Park studied them with wonder. "Your neural link has evolved beyond anything we imagined. The data shows you're literally sharing life energy. You've become something entirely new." Captain Song arrived, looking uncomfortable. He had misjudged Tai-Ho and Buck from the beginning. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "Both of you, Earth owes you everything." 3 months later, when the war was nearly over, General Choi called Tai-Ho to his office. Buck came too, of course. They were never apart now. "I have your discharge papers ready," said the general, "with full honors and benefits. You've done more than enough for Earth." Tai-Ho looked at Buck. Through their bond, they shared the same thought. "We want to stay, sir," said Tai-Ho, "but in a different role." "What did you have in mind?" "The Neural Bond Initiative. We want to help train new pairs." General Choi smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. We're already selecting candidates. The program has a new name now. Alpha Protocol." Word of what Tai-Ho and Buck had done spread through the recovering Earth. Children told stories of the man who could think like a wolf and the wolf who could fight like a man. Soldiers spoke with awe about the way they moved and fought as one. Scientists studied their unique bond. Dr. Park wrote papers suggesting they represented a new evolution, a perfect joining of human intellect and animal instinct. But Tai-Ho and Buck paid little attention to their fame. They were too busy training the next generation of bonded pairs. Each morning, they ran together through the forests that were slowly returning to their natural state. Each night, they shared their thoughts and dreams through the neural link that had made them stronger than either could be alone. They had saved Earth. But more importantly, they had found something that neither human nor wolf was meant to have alone. A perfect partnership that made them both more than they were before. The legend of the Alpha's war had only just begun.